Hello, you might be thinking of buying an electric vehicle in the next few years, or you may already have one, or you may be one of those people that are never going to get one. And that's fine. It's your decision. There's a lot of negative stories out there about electric vehicles. It appears that people interested in buying an EV, the numbers are slowing down a bit. And I'm really not surprised, because you never actually see many positive stories about electric vehicles, apart from people like me that don't get that many views. So if you would like to subscribe, that would be fantastic. Channel. I believe that I'm putting out information about what it's like to own an electric vehicle for the last 4.5 years. And some people don't like that. They say I'm telling lies and doing this, doing that. But I'm trying to give an honest view of what it's like to have an electric vehicle. And I've had vehicles, I've been driving petrol and diesel for over 50 years, and started out in the RAF driving all kinds of equipment, from minis to big trucks and heavy loading equipment on Brize Norton Air Base. And so I've been driving a long time. I was a rep also, driving company cars. Hi folks, my name's Nigel. If you'd like to subscribe, that would be fantastic. If you want to get a lot of views on YouTube, you put something out negative about electric vehicle, even if you own one. And there's one character that I've noticed that he gets about 50,000 views if he does a negative EV story about how bad they are. But if he blogs about pub food or going to Blackpool, he gets half the number. So he blogs a lot about how bad EVs are, even though he's got one.
It always has been a banana, it always will be a banana. It's a yellow fruit that you unzip and eat the white bits.
And his latest story is that 50% of people are returning back to petrol and diesel, which made me think, well, if that's right, do I read this right? They're returning from electric. But when I read the story, that's just not the case. People are not returning from electric. And if you go to anyone charging up, I often chat to people when I'm at the Tesla supercharger, have a bit of a chat. And I often ask people what they think about the Tesla, and it's always very positive. And sometimes they own it themselves, sometimes it's the company, and that's very, very positive. So going back to the item, which I believe originated from GB News, so you know it's going to be negative EV stories, they've done so many, is that 50% of people are returning to petrol and diesel. The obvious thing is, it means that 50% of people are thinking of buying one in the next few years. But I believe that they're saying that a few years ago, or last year, it was much higher. The percentage of people was much higher thinking of buying an electric vehicle. And I'm here today to say that if you talk to anyone with an electric vehicle, and this is why the numbers are growing, I believe we're about 19-20% of vehicles in the UK are now electric, and these numbers are growing. I couldn't possibly go back. I just couldn't do it. And I've been driving diesel, petrol all my life. I was looking at hiring a car recently for a trip and decided against it. I wanted electric, but they're way too expensive. But the electric cars aren't that expensive to buy. You can buy them used. But the ones that, because they're probably not doing many of the hire companies, they seem so expensive and unrealistic, really, and a bit of a put-off. So I didn't in the end. And because the other thing is they can't guarantee they'll give you an electric car. So there's a huge difference. I don't care if it's a big electric car or a small electric car, but I definitely don't want to get in a smelly diesel car and a noisy, horrible diesel car. I'm sold on electric vehicle. Diesel smells, petrol smells, the fumes that come out, the exhausts, kill people every year. So there's a lot of people putting out distorted stories. I know they've lost the argument when they have to resort to calling you smug evangelists because you don't have any facts or arguments to back your case. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they're in the ice age and they will soon be extinct. So yeah, every year CO2 emissions kill millions of people around the world. and I can think of no better reason to get an electric vehicle. But most of us don't do it because of that. We do it because they're great cars. But hang on, surely if you've got kids, grandkids, don't you want them to grow up in a cleaner environment? You go to Inverness. Now, there's a place that's built on oil, isn't it? Many of their buses there are electric, and they're so clean and quiet, and it's actually quite a delight. And that's what it's like driving an electric vehicle. And there'll be lots of people in the comments saying, yeah, we've had the electric vehicle. Hope you can comment also. And there'll be lots of people telling you that I've made a terrible choice and I'm trying to justify it. Well, I ain't, mate. Obviously, if you work in the oil industry or the motor industry, particularly in Germany, you're going to be anti. Or if you work for a dealer who have loved making lots and lots of profit out of servicing the car over the last years, and there won't be the same amount of servicing with electric vehicles. Mine's been almost minimal. I've got to take it in next week. I'm going to have to pay a charge for a small repair software, and that's the first time in 4 years other than tyres, and that's fine because the average over the 4 years is very, very small. So if you're thinking of buying an electric car, talk to other people who've got them, perhaps friends. Try and ignore the person who's the expert in the factory or the office where you work that knows everything, because I spend a lot of time fact-checking what people are saying, and they are talking so much nonsense. Some people will say that you're only transferring the emissions somewhere else, but no, you're not. When I start this car up, it's quiet and it's clean. The car over its lifetime uses much less energy, and our grid, and you only have to look at our national grid to see how much wind energy, how much solar energy we're using. We're not using any coal, and it's getting better and better. But people will come out with all kinds of strange things. Had a friend who said that they saw a photo of some wind turbines that were no longer in any use, and they weren't being recycled. Well, we don't know from a photo that they weren't being recycled. They may have been waiting to be recycled. But even if they weren't, it got me thinking, well, during the life of a wind turbine, and sometimes they're not going round. Oh, is that a reason not to have them? There must be a reason. I don't know. But has, in the history of petrol, diesel, gas, has it ever been recycled? Of course not. It burns up into the atmosphere and it goes in our lungs, and it's really bad for us. But a wind turbine that may have produced millions and millions of kilowatt hours of electricity has done a great job, and it's not being recycled. Well, it obviously should be recycled, but the fact that someone has got a photo, these are not being recycled. And I've heard people listen to people talk about renewable energy and electric cars as if it's a fact. And oh, well, there you go, this person believes this. My point being is there seems to be a much higher standard for wind energy and solar energy than there is for the oil industry. Yeah, it's going down. Your great years are gone as more and more people get the electric vehicle. And 20 years ago, we didn't have a choice, but we do have a choice now. Nobody's forcing you into buying an electric vehicle. It's your call. There are a number of manufacturers now, do your research, shop around, that their electric vehicle is the same price as the petrol version. And many companies now are not doing petrol anymore. They're going on to electric because they're getting better and better. It wasn't long ago that they were blaming electric vehicles for ships sinking, car parks setting on fire, which has all turned out not to be true. The AA says that the average car costs between 12 and 18p a mile to fill up with petrol or diesel, and mine costs 2p if I charge at home. If that's at night in the night rate, and the day rate it would be 7.2. But even if you go to a Tesla supercharger, it's only 9.5p a mile. That's well below what the AA say, and that would be for a small car at 12p a mile, 18p For a larger car, I think it's higher than that. 5 years ago, I did a lot of research in whether I should buy this car or not. And I didn't think it was a risk because there were so many people on YouTube who had, some in America, some were in the UK, who had the early 2019 Tesla Model 3 saying, buy it. It's great. It really is. And I sometimes think of my old dad. He had, in the mid-70s, one of the first Golfs ever made. It wasn't a hot hatch then. It was just a regular car. But the VW range in the mid-70s was terrible. It was dire. Would Dad have had electric? I think he would. I think he would have loved it. It's a great car. Hope you can subscribe. And I've got a link down in the comments if you're thinking of buying a new Tesla. But you can also buy used Teslas at well under the £10,000. And you know what? Here's a secret. There's some Model S's from around about 2016, 17. What's that? 10 years, 9 years? And with under 100,000 miles. Some only 50 or 60,000 with free supercharging for life. And if you live within 20 miles of a supercharger, as many people do, that's got to be a great deal. You may even live further than that, and it's still a great deal. There are so many examples of very high mileage Teslas driving around. Thinking back in the day, you'd never buy a petrol over 100,000, but you'd be probably wanting 30 or 40, and then diesel came along, and it could easily go over 100,000. Well, the EVs, certainly the Teslas, are looking at 200, 300, 400,000. Some have done 1 million. It's a fantastic car, and there's plenty of used ones out there. I've probably talked too much, and I'll see you very soon. Thanks for watching. Take care, and don't forget to take your reusable coffee mug wherever you go. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.